Juliana.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, everyone, for coming. So I will start with the movie of the Amazon so we can warm up a little bit. This is the official movie, and I just grabbed from the event we made last year of the 10 years of the Amazon, but it's in the website. It was just easier to get here. So.
The Amazon is one of our most important environmental assets. It encompasses the largest hydrographic basin in the world. It is home to rich biodiversity, and it plays a crucial role in the rain patterns of our continent and in the climatic balance on the planet. Some 25 million people also live in the region, including traditional populations such as indigenous tribes, descendants from former slave communities known as Quilombolas, river dwellers, and those who live off the forest, and many of them live in protected areas. For example, indigenous land and environmental conservation units. Brazil is proud to have significantly reduced deforestation in its area of the Amazon. This decrease is one of the main contributions across the world towards countering climate change. Which invests in projects aimed at combating deforestation and reinforcing sustainable use of the forest. The VN is cooperation with the Ministry of the Environment. One of the largest in the world, the VNDES is responsible for raising and allocating resources, as well as monitoring projects that receive support. Both government and companies can make donations to the fund. Here are some projects receiving support from some funds.
Instituto Melhora, nós temos conjunto de ações focadas para o manejo florestal comunitário, a proteção ambiental e também o componente de monitoramento, no sentido de se as ações realizadas e o projeto estão tendo um impacto previsto.
Graças a Deus, todas as crianças, se você mandar elas plantar, planta, elas sabem plantar. Mas o que o projeto traz para a gente é o conhecimento a mais.
Eles bastante contribuem com a informação na parte da área de agricultura. É muito importante esses agentes como educadores, como pessoas que fazem o trabalho de sensibilização com suas comunidades, principalmente prevenir que o crime ambiental aconteça. Ele é mais uma liderança, é mais um instrumento, uma ferramenta que vem para a comunidade para, junto com ela, cuidar do recurso natural. É muito importante que exista o Fundo Amazônia, né, no sentido de beneficiar principalmente quem vive na floresta e quem precisa da floresta.
Então, o cadastro ambiental rural, né, que é um instrumento que foi criado pelo novo Código Florestal, ele possibilitou uma virada de página na regularização ambiental.
Quase a totalidade dos imóveis estão na base de acompanhamento do órgão.
Ele veio para criar um instrumento mais ágil, dessa trazendo também alguns benefícios ao esse produtor poder pagar o seu passivo, né, proteger as águas e também ter uma reserva legal produtiva.
Nós temos como um caso emblemático o sítio Nova Jerusalém, de propriedade do seu geral. Analisamos o que era a situação ambiental do setor, que estava em déficit ambiental, ou seja, que faltava para ele cumprir a legislação. Ele assinou um compromisso de regularizar e, com isso, a propriedade do seu geral obteve um desembargo ambiental, inclusive a regularização da multa ambiental.
Primeiro eu recebi o cadastro, né? Daí um dia eu já recebi também o desembargo, né? Fiz o projeto, já consegui o crédito pelo banco.
Quando o Fundo Amazônia abriu a oportunidade de apoiar projetos de implantação do cadastro ambiental rural e do programa de regularização ambiental, nós conseguimos obter os resultados que hoje está se tornando até referência no país.
E um dos projetos mais importantes que a gente tem é o programa de monitoramento da Amazônia. Existem muitas teorias sobre desmatamento que ele é feito para a área de passagem, mas ninguém tinha isso comprovado numericamente.
Quando começa uma fiscalização mais efetiva, esses grandes desmatamentos eles começam a diminuir.
Apesar de a gente ter esses atores de despensamento, a gente tem cerca de 20% de área entrando em regeneração.
Aqui no Brasil, nós somos em torno de 3 mil achados.
Tem um trabalho que a gente desde 1989, né, que é um trabalho de recuperar, de restaurar todos os danos causados aqui pela exploração de madeira, no desmatamento da criação de pastagem, com o manejo de fauna silvestre, a recuperação dos rios, que nós plantamos aqui dentro de 1 milhão, né, entre aqui e fora do território agora.
Foi importante saber que ali estava o Fundo Amazônia. O Fundo Amazônia estava dialogando exatamente com o que a gente estava fazendo nesses últimos 20 anos, que era lutar para a floresta ficar de pé, recuperar.
E hoje tem sido levado o modelo que nós temos desenvolvido aqui na comunidade e no Centro e Oriente Antami, também para outros municípios, para outros estados. E é esse ponto que nós estamos querendo alcançar perante ao dizer que não sabe de nada. Eu acho que é muito poucas pessoas que entendem como sabe, né?
Nós temos algo de 500 mil famílias de assentados. Então, o trabalho de PAN está focado no sentido de criar um ambiente onde essas famílias possam prosperar.
Sem essa gestão ambiental, fica quase impossível porque ele vem no primeiro momento, ele pensa em produzir, aí ele acaba desmatando, sem conhecimento.
Até que eu fiz uma coisa meio errada, que foi derrubar a minha mata, mas a gente tem que sobreviver. Aí apareceu gente do IPAN, depois daí para cá, coisa que eu planejei, né?
Com a presença dos técnicos aqui, começa um processo de reconstrução das atividades produtivas, cursos, oficinas, faz com que o agricultor tenha uma perspectiva.
O encontro com o Fundo Amazônia se dá justamente por essa convergência na missão das duas instituições. E, se tudo der certo, terminar com o desmatamento na Amazônia.
Para nós, nós temos que mudar, dar um salto para o filho. Ele nos ajudou mais a desenvolver mais, então mais presente. Ele sempre sonhava com essa terra, ele sempre sonhou com preservar, garantiu. E eu acredito, se para mim foi bom, sou agricultor, para todos os agricultores do estado do Acre, isso é ótimo. E hoje, assim, de onde eu vim, eu vejo que está abriu outro mundo.
Aí eu acredito que é só melhorar mais.
E a gente espera que essa recuperação não esteja restaurada só a terra, mas a consciência também do ser humano que destrói tudo.
Amazon Fund, Brazil protects it, the world supports it, everybody wins. BND, the Brazilian Development Bank.
Você quer a sua apresentação de PowerPoint agora, né?
Okay, so I will speak about the Amazon Fund a little bit deeper than the video. So the video you can have a feeling of the ground and the Amazon and the beauty of it. But I will speak a little bit about the results, the lessons we learned in these last 10 years, and the threats, the currently threats. So just to give you a context about how the Amazon and a timeline of how the Amazon Fund was created. So in 2004, a very important public policy was launched in Brazil that is known as the Plan to Prevent and Combat Deforestation in the Amazon, and by the acronym PPCDAM. And then in 2007, Brazil has presented in the Conference of Parties in Bali a framework that end up to be the Amazon Fund. That would be the logic of payment for results, payment for performing and reducing deforestation. That end up to be the framework that was approved by UNFCCC during the Conference of Parties in Warsaw, firstly, and ratified in the COP of Paris. In 2008, there was the legal framework was created then to the Amazon Fund that had four main axes: the fundraising mechanism, the Amazon Fund governance, the financial and project management and guidelines, and the reporting and transparency standards. And in 2018, last year, we celebrated 10 years of the Amazon Fund. Talking about the public policy, the PPCDAM, it has four main axes. The first axis is land tenure and territorial planning. The second one is environmental. The first one, let me talk a little bit, is related to the establishment of conservation units and recognizing indigenous rights through their territories. The environmental and monitoring control is law enforcement, is monitoring of the deforestation and the use of the land. Fostering sustainable production is a way to find alternatives that the forest is more valued, is standing than cut down. And regulatory and economic instrument was included in the fourth revision of the PPCDAM to find ways to scale up and to value the environmental service that local population provide to climate. The PPCDAM was created in 2004, not occasionally. Actually, in 2004, we had one of the highest deforestation rates ever recorded since INPE has started to monitor deforestation in the Amazon in the 80s. So you can see the highest one was in 1995, and the second highest was in 2004. So there was a huge mobilization in society, in Brazilian society, together with the government at that time, and the government of the local governments, the state's governments, a lot of NGOs that were working in the Amazon a long time, to bring together a diagnosis of what were the main factors of deforestation and how would be the strategy to tackle them. And that's when it was created, the PPCDAM, those four axes. And you can see that deforestation reduced significantly after that, particularly in the first years. It was a huge drop. And this is when the Amazon Fund was created. Brazil and leaders have thought, we are doing such a huge effort, not only in terms of human resources, but also in terms of budget. And we've been participating in all the discussions of climate mitigation, and forest is an important part of it. Why not have others mobilized, including financially, to provide support so we can have even better results? So that's how the concept of the Amazon Fund was created. And the deforestation continued to drop until 2012. But then after that period, you can see that deforestation started to rise again. And it stayed around 5,000, between 5,000 and 8,000 last year. So again, the reduction of deforestation from 2004 to 2017 was 75%, and it corresponds to the world's largest contribution a country has made to mitigate global warming. It is equivalent to 6.1 billion of tons of carbon dioxide avoided. So then the Amazon Fund was created, first with a pledge from Norway in the Conference of Bali, and after the following discussions that came. And then the Germany government has also made a pledge, and both has contributed already with $1.3 billion to the Amazon Fund. Today, the Amazon Fund has a portfolio of 103 projects supported, totaling more than $700 million. And those projects are like through a range of actors that work with the Amazon, from the third sector to local governments, and also scientific institutions, and one international institution that I will speak later on about. So what are the pillars of the Amazon Fund? The pillars of the Amazon Fund dialogue essentially with the pillars of the axis of the BPC. Actually, the Amazon Fund, we usually say that the Amazon Fund has three pillars. One is country governance. The second one is governance, country ownership. I'm sorry, the first one is country ownership. The second is governance, and the third one is transparency. So those are the three pillars that are interconnected. The first pillar, that is country ownership. Ownership means that everything we do when we support are connected to the national policy, meaning that the donors do not have any influence in deciding what the money will be used for. So you can see that the axis of the Amazon Fund are the same as the PPC. So it's linked to the national public policy. The second pillar is participatory governance. So the fund has two committees that decide not only the guidelines but also ratify what is the fundraising limit. So the first one is the guidance committee, known as COFA, Comitê Orientador do Fundo Amazônico. COFA is composed, or was composed, that does not exist, at least temporarily. COFA was composed by 23 members, some coming from the federal government, from various ministries, some from the Amazon states. All the 9 Amazon states were represented, usually, most of the times, through their Secretary of Environment, and some from the civil society, but from different parts of civil society. We have one representative from the indigenous communities. COIAB is a strong and important aggregation, association of indigenous associations. CONTAG, that are the representation from the workers. CNI, that is represented from the industry. FBONS, represented from NGOs. FNBF, represented from the forest market. And SBPC, representing the scientists. So it's a different, it's not only NGOs, as the government was telling in some declarations. And these people, they meet regularly, at least twice a year, to discuss the diagnosis of the Amazon deforestation and what should be the guidelines and priorities that the Amazon Fund should focus, that would be complementary to all public policies that were being implemented by the government. So one of the conditions of the Amazon Fund is that additionality condition. The Amazon Fund are not supposed to replace government efforts, but actually to complement, to be additional to government efforts and budget. The second committee is a technical committee. It's formed by renowned scientists indicated by the National Panel of Climate, and its main function is to verify and attest the carbon emissions reduction from deforestation reduction that were produced by the National Institute of Space Research. And based on all that 75% decrease in deforestation, the country, and considering the value of $5 per ton of carbon dioxide, the Amazon Fund in Brazil, in the essence, would be eligible to receive $21.6 billion in donations due to the results it has presented. Transparency is the third pillar, so I will invite you after our presentation to visit the site of the Amazon Fund it is a very, it's an overwhelming website with a lot of information, particularly for scientists to research, people that are interested in REDD+ matters. Like there is a huge detail of projects. Each project has a logical framework with indicators, with relatoria, like a description, what the project's objective is, what has been implemented so far, how much is the amount, what region it is focusing. And actually, when you open the website of the Amazon Fund, the first thing you will see is a map of Brazil, and you will see some dots that are the location, the region that each project, like a quotation of the projects in the map. And I want to see all the projects in Acre, let's say, Marcelo studied Acre. So you go to the dots that are in Acre, and you see the projects, and you can click, and it will pop up the detail of each project in Acre. So it's very interesting and very transparent mechanism. The other thing is the annual independent auditors. We have two auditors, the financial audit, that is the regular auditing process performed in the financial statements of the fund, and also compliance audit that verifies if BNDES, as the manager of the fund, complies with all the requirements, guidelines established by the steering committee, the COFAMI committee. Third, there is a system that we have implemented. We have the technical assistance from GIZ. I don't know if you have heard. It's a technical cooperation between, is a technical institution from Germany. And BNDES has made a technical cooperation with them, and they assisted us in implementing a very broad and comprehensive method of monitoring the results and the effectiveness of projects. So that's when we created a logical framework for the Amazon Fund, and there is a specific publication, a specific report talking about the logical framework. If some of you are interested in the effectiveness about evaluation and effectiveness of projects, it's a good source to consult. And last, there are annual meetings with the donors. These annual meetings is a kind of to account for. There is no influence in terms of decisions, but it's something to account for in terms of results and future plannings of the fund. So those are some highlights of the Amazon Fund. You could see in the video, the ones that were here. The Amazon Fund supports from high technology monitoring process through satellite to projects on the ground to local communities. And we will see some of the examples of projects we have supported so far. So environmental monitoring, we have supported projects not only to monitor the Amazon region, but also to other biomes that in Brazil that have forests as well, such as Cerrado, Caatinga, Mata Atlântica, Pampa, etc. Cerrado is a resource from other source, but the other biomes the Amazon Fund has supported to actually expand the technology we used to have to monitor the Amazon that was been done since the 80s to the other biomes as well. So we would have a national frame for REDD in the near future. And this is the main objective. But we also support projects to the Pan-Amazon countries to transfer technology from INPE to the other Pan-Amazon countries through the multilateral institutions that some of you might know, OTCAs, ATCO, the translation, and also with Sensipan, that is from the Ministry of Defense, to monitor through radar, orbital radar, the Amazon region as well, because there are some periods that the Amazon are covered by clouds, and you cannot see through the clouds through satellite monitoring. So the orbital radar actually goes and through the clouds, and you can see focus of deforestation even when there are strong cloud periods. The other strong support that the Amazon Fund made was to environmental enforcement, law enforcement. So actions, missions made by IBAMA were supported through two huge projects, and it caused an increase of almost 700 missions on the ground. And those are not human resources, because we do not support human resources based on the additionality criteria. So the human resources is a country's budget. We actually support with all the logistics and vehicles and all that. So we match funds to comply with the additionality clause. We also support significantly prevention and fight against forest fires through the support to 5 states in the Amazon region, plus the national institution to combat fires, with purchasing special vehicles, equipment, training of the military firefighters, and so on. So imagine if there was this support from the Amazon Fund, with this situation that we had this year, what we heard from the firefighters that were supported, that this was fundamental, that at this time, not to have an even worse scenario that we have seen in the newspapers. The support to the Amazon Fund to protected areas were also very significant in terms of, there are 2 types of protected areas that correspond to almost 50% of the whole Amazon are now designated as protected areas. Some are are known as conservation units. There are the areas that are important in terms of biodiversity or water, and some criteria that are established to design them as conservation units, and some are indigenous territories, indigenous lands. So as you can see, this is an example of map of the Amazon. Now it's better because it's interactive, but all these dots here are projects with indigenous lands, and then the brown areas are indigenous territories in the Amazon, and which means that 65% of all indigenous territories in the Amazon region has projects with the Amazon Fund. So you can see the impact of the territory, how the capillarity that the Amazon Fund has reached in the past years. And this has generated the support to 96 indigenous lands, and 30,000 indigenous people directly benefited with the projects supported. The other important support of the Amazon Fund is for science, innovation, and economic instruments. We have supported 6 local universities in the Amazon region, plus 4 national research institutes introducing research and knowledge, ending to more than 450 scientific publications. They are all available on the website. So you can, in each project, there is a last tab that is like we call acervo. I don't know the translation in English. Collection maybe. It's last tab. You can see everything that was published. There are some videos about projects as well. So I invite you to also visit. The rural registry system. So we saw in the video the forest code was an important public policy as well to make the rural owners or the people that occupy the territory accountable for the use of the territory, and accountable to if they comply or not with the forest code. Some of you might know, but 80% of each individual property based on the forest code legislation has to be protected in the Amazon. 80%. Only 20% can be used in productive means. So which means that there is an inventory, kind of a geo-referenced assessment for each individual property, and each individual owner has to register its property in the national system called CAR, Cadastro Ambiental Rural, Environmental Registry. So through the Amazon Fund, we have supported more than 700,000 individual properties that were enrolled in CAR. And this is the important thing to know, that these are always small properties. We do not support neither medium nor big properties. These, according to the Forest Code, the obligation for medium and bigger owners they have to make the expenses to comply with the Forest Code. But the small ones do not have neither the financial resources and the technical resources. So this was an obligation of the states to provide the support. So the Amazon Fund has supported enrollment of the small properties. The area of all those 740,000 properties corresponds to 90 million hectares. It's an area bigger than Norway and Germany together. The last axis that we have supported significantly is for sustainable production. We have 38 direct institutions supported. A lot of them are partners with the University of Florida. You might recognize some of them here. And through those institutions, it was a strategy that we have developed in the past 10 years that how to give capillarity. So through this institution, they access other local institutions. So we have reached 338 institutions supported at the end on the ground. And through those institutions, more than 160,000 people were impacted and directly benefited in the territory. So this is kind of an evolution in our learning process in supporting sustainable production on the ground. So it came from direct promotion of production and processing, so supporting technical assistance with machines and equipment to process and to increase production of forest-based products. Integrate then. We thought and we gathered and we induced new projects that integrated the value chain perspective, meaning that it doesn't it's not worth to only support production if you do not have the link to the market. It's not worth to support the benefiting of a project if you do not have training in the production part. So looking for the value chain as a whole was the second strategy that we implemented throughout these years. And that was last year's in 2007 we started studying the possibilities of impact investment and mechanisms of blended finance with the private sector. Because we have seen a shift through donors, through foundations, that all were looking for more how to keep sustainability after the grant has gone. So a lot of innovative mechanisms, and I've been seeing a lot of discussions on this path. I was in the side events of UN Climate Week these past days. A lot of discussions focus on this. So some of the results in the sustainable production axis. So 24,000 people were trained in sustainable production activities. $36 million we have monitored as new proceeds from sales of products. Is it an increase of sales and revenues from products? 22 million hectares of managed forest. 2,600 small projects directly supported, and 357 processing units installed for products from family farming and extractive activities. So the numbers are very impressive. And some learnings and challenges that we have seen supporting sustainable production activities that are very common to other parts of the Amazon region, and also some parts in Africa and other countries that are developing countries, or when we work with vulnerable communities. One of the challenges are capillarity, how you can reach the ground, how you can reach local institutions. So one of the strategies we get is to work with strong partners that have very strong connections with the people on the ground, with local institutions, with cooperatives, so we could spread the funds in a more capillarity way. Community participation is also a strong part of this, and actually is one of the safeguards of the Amazon Fund to ensure that local communities participate not only in the elaboration of the project, but also in the implementation. So you have the ownership of the local communities, benefit sharing as well. Technical assistance is an important part. So I talked about production, but it goes throughout the value chain. to gain scale in the production, innovation, sustainability of results, and monitoring and evaluation. We have incorporated in the past years gender indicators, and I also invite you, I've already sent to some friends, there is a report that we have just been launched about 2 months ago about gender impact of the Amazon Fund in its projects. So it's also in the website. So is the Amazon Fund currently under threat? Let's make some assessment. Those are some of the declarations and that we have seen since the new government has assumed. First, a denial of climate change, meaning that it's a Marxist plot. Threats to the Paris Agreement, that the Brazil would be leaving the Paris Agreement. Brazil not hosting the Conference of Parties this year. Indigenous lands and peoples, no extra inch, actually no extra millimeter, that's more than an inch, to be demarcated. Revisions of previous demarcation, which is unconstitutional, by the way. Threats to humans and indigenous rights. What's easy? I summarized. Constitutional amendment to authorize indigenous lands use for mining and agriculture and cattle raising. This is extremely dangerous because you will break the tecido social, the social textile, the social tissue. Yeah, the fabric, it's extremely damaging. This is another presentation or debate or discussion. NGOs and social movements are communists, are troublemakers, are esquerdopatas, meaning psychopaths from the left, anarchists, science knowledge, completely denial of science. The National Institute of Space Research have fake numbers, and suspension of funds to research, completely suspension of funds to research. So maybe I am a left psychopath as well after I do this presentation. IBAMA and ICMBio are fine industries. They are a barrier to production, to the productive sector. Enforcement operations were significantly reduced or suspended. Actually, there was 2 enforcement operations that the President Bolsonaro had declared that they had to be suspended. And one of them, the Ministry of Environment went to visit the criminals that took fire in the cars from IBAMA. So it's a strong bad signal to criminal and then grabbing. FUNAI was transferred to the Human Family and Human Rights Ministry. That is a very conservative ministry, but then it was reversed by the Supreme Court, was dismantled. Demarcation rows were transferred to MAPA, so like the fox looking for the chicken. MMA, the Ministry of Environment, was completely dismantled. Roles transferred to the Ministry of Agriculture as well. Divisions extincted, such as the Forest and Climate Change divisions, and the Ministry of Foreign Relations, totally with a total ideological approach. BNDES is the Caixa Preta. I don't know if you heard. It's the black box in the airplane, meaning that it's non-transparent. The Amazon Fund has no criteria in selecting projects, and we did this presentation for them. Not effective governance. Norway, German, and European Union are threats to Brazil's sovereignty. I don't know how to say this word. So, MMAs, the Ministry of Environment decided to do an audit of the last 10 years of the Amazon funds from February to May, paralyzing our operation because we are a small team and we have to provide more than 5,000 documents for them of all the assessments we have made in monitoring the projects and selecting projects and so on and so forth. then in the May 17, 2019, I will never forget, the minister has convoked a press conference and declared that there were inconsistencies, that the governance was not working, that there were no criteria in selecting projects, and the projects were not effective, that we have benefit NGOs significantly, and the COFA and CTFA were dissolved based on a decree that was created that dissolved not only all committees, actually showing that the government did not want interference and participative governance in the public policies, so they were dissolved to not only COFA and CTFA. Government's proposal is to create a committee of 7 members that has the Ministry of Environment choose the members and oversees the decisions of COFA and BNDES as the manager, having the veto powers. I don't know how to translate, I forgot to translate the veto power. So this caused a deal break with the donors. And some meetings had happened. We've been seeing everything from the news. BNDES was escanteado, was put aside, excluded from the discussions, but we have been seeing in the news what's going on, so nothing is confidential here that I'm talking about. Is the Amazon Fund under threat? Yes, it is definitely under threat. Is there hope? I would say yes, definitely. Maybe a week ago I would not say, but I really came very impacted from the conferences and discussions I've participated in the last 3 days in New York. What I've seen with all these extreme positions from the local government and from Brazil government, I mean, there is a strong mobilization from society, and this I think goes beyond Brazil. We've been seeing children marching against climate change. I've seen and I've listened to young leaders. I think the youth are taking the role. I've listened to small youth politicians as well. Some I will name Tabata Amaral from São Paulo. I was so impressed, and I invite you to learn about her. She has an impactful story coming from poverty and studying in Harvard. It's a politician, a congresswoman with 25 years old in Brazil. Very impressive. And I heard about, I listened to Marina Silva as well yesterday, and so Carlos Nobre in some of the conferences, Thomas Lovejoy, some of private sector representatives from the agribusiness, and some from industries like Natura, Guilherme Leal, the president of Natura, some foundations as well. So I've seen a strong movement from different sectors, and I think this might be the chance that and what we have been together in terms of hope. So I will open for questions, and I have a video that has 3 minutes. So maybe if we can stop before to see if the video. Otherwise, I will share with everyone. It's the video of the girl that spoke just after Greta Thunberg yesterday. That is a Brazilian leader, a youth leader. I recommend you to see.
We don't have to share the link because otherwise we won't have time for questions.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Juliana.
So open for questions. Patricia and Olga. Maybe I will collect 3 questions and then I explain to you.
I just wanted to hear a little bit more about the strategy of participation in the. So, and when you said that you saw this mobilization, can you give me an example of what is it? I'm just trying against him.
Okay.
So
I will.
Your hopefulness.
Yeah. I tend to be hopeful or optimistic, but
so I was wondering about this
But I haven't seen, just one second, I haven't seen Bolsonaro's speech this morning. So
You just shoot.
maybe I will lose a little bit of this hope. I heard about it.
Yeah. So I was wondering about the sources of the project proposals for the for writing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was. Okay. Any other questions? So I'll respond to these two. So Patricia's question. So I will mention there were a lot. Maybe we can schedule another presentation. I have a lot of outcomes because I participate in a broad, in very different types of events. But I will mention just one that was very emblematic and that the minister was present. He invited himself to be. That was the launch of the initiative called Possible Amazon, or Amazônia Possível. It was an initiative between Instituto Arapiaú, there is a foundation, the Natura's Foundation, Instituto Arapiaú, with Coalizão Brasil Clima Floresta, the Brazilian Coalition for Forest and Agriculture that engages NGOs and a lot of private sector actors and scientists. So there was this launch of this initiative that actually were a lot, the discussions were a lot to connect the private sector as an important part of the climate mitigation, and particularly with the Amazon Sustainable Development, and discussing some alternatives, discussing the shift that of doing business with responsibility, doing business for future generations. And the minister was there sitting and listening, and in the end a word was given to him, and he recognized that there is poverty in the Amazon. He didn't know the numbers, so he changed his mind. No, there are 2 million poor people. No, there are 4 million, so he doesn't know the figures, but at least he vocalized, I think we recognize. I hope that he listened to that. But at least, like, there were a lot of leaders from the private sector, from the politics, from important NGOs, from different types of works, from indigenous NGOs, from NGOs that work with rural people, think tanks of Brazil, international think tanks. So it was a huge event in the United Nations. So it was inside the United Nations. So this was a very impactful. And I believe this, I will take the quote from Carlos Nobre, I believe that was in the panel, or some other person in the panel. I think maybe Carlos Nobre spoke about the tipping point of the Amazon, the savanization risk, and but maybe it was when there was like a feedback discussion that the Amazon possible, or the Amazônia Possível possible Amazon might be the tipping point of doing business in Amazon. So hope exists, at least. So this is just one example, but we can discuss later on, or have a coffee, or I will be glad to speak. And I have to organize because I almost finished a notebook with all my notes, so I have now to organize and maybe do some discussion with you. Talking was Olga mentioned, there is a slide here on the back. So they are very, it varies significantly, as you can see here. So I will just use, because it's not to lose. Yes. Yes. So so there are universities. It's a small percentage and small number, because a lot of the projects are either bigger or they are focused on application of science. So but there are some that also register here in federal government, because, for example, the National Institute of Space Research do some research, but they are here. So there are some overlapping in terms of this classification, but some federal government, municipalities, states are government, third sector, and one international that is with the ACTO that supports implementation of satellite monitors for the fauna and wildlife. Any other question? So maybe we have no questions. So let's see together the video of Paloma, our Brazilian Greta.
Okay. Yeah. Peraí, eu subir aqui, esse aqui embaixo.
Okay. It's only 3 minutes. I really recommend you to see that.
Yes, my name is Paloma Costa, and I am from Brazil. I am a social environmentalist defender, a bicycle activist, a climate educator, and a youth mobilizer. I have witnessed how indigenous, traditional communities, and other minority groups are being impacted by the climate crisis. You know, back in Brazil, a great indigenous leader recently said that indigenous people have been resisting since the beginning. What about us? Are we going to be able to resist? Well, youth are mobilized. We are not going to work with industries that deforestate. We are not going to be silent. We have already changed our habits, and you are not following us. Indigenous people have all of this knowledge and connection with our earth, and we still fail to listen to. But they unite themselves to protect their territory. Why can't we do the same to protect our home? In the past few weeks, the world watched a dam as on fire horror. I saw the whole world praying for our forests and our indigenous people fighting for survival. We don't need praying, we need acting. And the response we see is not enough. So I ask myself, do we need to see the Amazon burn to start something? I don't think so. Since my first climate strike data here at COP24, 500 million trees have been destroyed in the Amazon. And people still come to me and ask if I am afraid to defend our forests. Well, as environmental defenders are in great risk, I would like to say that I am not afraid. I am afraid of dying by climate crisis. We are living through a climate emergency, and it is affecting our food security, our health, our lives, and we have the solution for both resiliency and mitigation. We live now in a world divided. While we have here the greatest brands, there are still people outside here and inside here as well asking themselves if the climate crisis is real or not. Well, it is. The Secretary General, he challenged the whole world, and I've been working closely with the UN to help build the Youth Climate Summit last Saturday with the Youth Working Group. I know everyone here is ready. I know that. Will you stop the talk so we can turn solutions into actionable commitments? Or should we wait until next year when we gather here together? Well, if I want to add something from our leaders, I will probably say that I want all nations to declare a climate emergency. So this will start being the #1 agenda for all leaders. My demand here is not a mere symbolic declaration, but a genuine commitment to the environment and to original and traditional people who have protected the environment for centuries and are still being oppressed. I will keep educating you, defending human and environmental rights, listening to my fellow youth and indigenous people here, to build the climate agenda in Brazil with no excuse. So I don't want to hear excuses here. Now it's your turn to make history and take urgent action to guarantee a safe future for all of us. Let's do this together. We are here now. It's our time. Thank you.
So it's a good way to have some hope. I think maybe my generation had failed, but I still work as having energy, and we have to keep working. But maybe this generation is coming to change. Let's see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Juliana.